Welcome, dear listener. Ascend the frozen peaks of Chalet Edelweiss with me. I'm your guide through the avalanche and the avarice, every clue sharp as crampons, every revelation colder than the grave. If you've ever suspected a winter inheritance hides the deadliest descent, this is your tale. Subscribe now and never miss a creak of the lift shaft. New chapters arrive weekly, wrapped in mystery. Yours in suspense, the chronicler of alpine ice. An avalanche seals the chalet. A baron bleeds out with a ski pole through his heart, and a single icicle melts on the rug. Hercule Poirot tastes poison in the glühwein and knows the heir falls first. Welcome to Hercule Poirot and the Winter Heirs Fall. 5 chapters of frost, forgery, and fatal legacies. Hit play. The melt is coming. Chapter 1. The Avalanche Inheritance. The avalanche struck just after midnight, a thunderous roar that shook the Swiss Alps like the wrath of ancient gods. Snow cascaded down the north face of Mont Blanc in a white torrent, swallowing the winding road to Chalet Edelweiss in a single, merciless gulp. Hercule Poirot, ensconced in a velvet-lined compartment of the funicular railway, felt the tremor through the steel cables. He had been summoned to the remote chalet by Baron Otto von Richter, a reclusive industrialist whose steel empire spanned continents. The invitation promised a reading of the Baron's will amid the airs, a winter gathering Poirot could not refuse. Curiosity, after all, was his vice. The funicular lurched to a halt at the upper station, its lights flickering. The conductor, a weathered Tyrolean named Hans, peered into the darkness. De Lawine, the road is gone. The chalet, she's cut off. Poirot descended, his astrakhan coat buttoned to the chin, galoshes crunching through the fresh powder. A horse-drawn sled awaited, its driver muffled in furs. For Chalet Edelweiss, he grunted. The Baron insists. No storm stops the will. The sled plunged into the white void, bells jingling like desperate laughter. Chalet Edelweiss emerged from the storm. A timbered fortress perched on a precipice, its steep roof laden with snow, windows glowing amber against the black. Icicles daggered from the eaves, the great pine doors swung open, exhaling warmth scented with glühwein and pine resin. The butler, Herr Klaus, greeted them with alpine stoicism. Monsieur Poirot, the family awaits in the great hall. The Baron is impatient. The hall was a cathedral of alpine opulence, a roaring fire in a stone hearth carved with edelweiss, tapestries of mountain hunts flickering in the flames, a Christmas tree soaring to the rafters, its candles twinkling like captive stars. The airs mingled beneath a chandelier of antlers, glühwein mugs steaming. At the center stood Baron Otto von Richter, 65, hawk-faced, his silver hair slicked back, clad in a velvet smoking jacket. His voice boomed over the storm. Poirot, my little Belgian detective, you'll ensure no one cheats my legacy. The cast of suspects assembled. Frau Greta von Richter, the Baron's daughter-in-law, 42, statuesque in emerald wool, her smile sharp as a stiletto. Herr Ludwig von Richter, the prodigal son, 38, dissipated, his skier's tan unable to hide the tremor in his hands. Signor Marco Bellini, the illegitimate nephew, 35, dark-eyed, his Italian charm a contrast to the alpine chill. Fräulein Anna Weber, the Baron's secretary, 28, prim in grey, her ledger never far. Herr Victor Stahl, the valet, 50, ramrod straight, his loyalty carved in every gesture. At 8, dinner was served in the dining hall, venison in juniper sauce, rusty golden as the fire, a black forest cake tiered like a snowdrift. Poirot savoured the glühwein, noting the Baron's pallor beneath his bluster. A winter will, he mused to Anna. The snow, it buries secrets. She laughed, but her eyes darted to Ludwig. The Baron rewrote it yesterday, said the heir must prove worthy. The Baron raised his mug. To my legacy, may it outlast this storm. At 9:15, the Baron excused himself to his study. Final revisions, he growled. The door closed with a click. The key turned from within. The storm redoubled, wind howling like a banshee. At 9:47, Frau Greta knocked on the study door. No answer. Ludwig rattled the handle. Locked. Marco fetched the valet's spare key. It turned, but the door resisted. A collective shove splintered the jamb. The Baron lay sprawled across his desk, a ski pole thrust through his chest, blood pooling like spilled Merlot on the blotter. The room was locked. The single window latched, frost undisturbed on the panes. The only key lay on the carpet, inches from his outstretched hand. On the blotter, scrawled in blood, "The heir falls first." Frau Greta screamed, a sound torn from the marrow. Ludwig retched. Marco's charm shattered. Anna dropped her ledger, pages scattering like snowflakes. Victor stood frozen, loyalty etched in stone. Poirot moved with quiet purpose. He knelt by the body, gloved fingers avoiding the blood. The wound was precise through the sternum, angled downward, a skier's knowledge. The ski pole was carbon fiber, engraved LVR, Ludwig's. He examined the window. The latch was secure, but a single icicle melted on the Persian rug beneath, its trail a faint damp line from the sill. The frost outside was unbroken, yet the icicle was fresh. The telegram's remnants in the grate revealed more. Codicil void, orphanage. The paper was heavy, official, post office issue. Poirot sniffed the air, bitter almonds beneath the smoke, cyanide, perhaps, on the pole. Herr Klaus burst in, face blanched. The cable car, severed. The avalanche took the road. We're trapped till spring. Ludwig checked the window. No tracks. Impossible. Poirot lifted the key with a handkerchief. Its bow was warm, recently handled. He turned to the desk. A will, half-drafted, disinheriting Ludwig in favor of... The ink was fresh. The name orphanage crossed out, replaced with Marco. Frau Greta's voice trembled. He was rewriting it tonight. Said the heir had betrayed him. Ludwig's hand slipped from the desk. Anna's eyes glittered with unshed tears or triumph. Victor hovered, his valet's apron now definitely bloodstained. Poirot stood by the hearth, the fire's glow painting his face in gentle planes. A locked room, he murmured, yet the icicle speaks. Someone entered and left without disturbing the frost. Outside, the avalanche's echo lingered. Chalet Edelweiss, a tomb of steel and blood. The heir had fallen, and the enigma had begun. Chapter 2. Ski tracks in the crimson snow. Dawn clawed its way over the jagged peaks of Mont Blanc, a pale, reluctant light filtering through the chalet's frost-laced windows. The avalanche had sculpted the landscape into a frozen sculpture garden. Pines bent double under their white burdens, the cable car station a mangled twist of steel dangling over the abyss. Hercule Poirot stood on the study balcony, breath pluming in delicate spirals, his galoshes leaving precise imprints in the virgin crust. Below, the snow bore a cryptic signature. Ski tracks, erratic, looping wildly in figure eights, then plunging straight over the cliff's edge into the void below. Poirot knelt, magnifying glass in hand. The tracks were fresh, the edges sharp where the skis had carved. He scraped a sample of crimson-flecked snow into a vial, then traced the trail backward. At the balcony rail, the snow was undisturbed. No leap, no rope. The loops mocked physics, a madman's dance on the precipice. Inside, the lounge had been commandeered as an interrogation salon, its pine walls glowing with firelight, edelweiss carvings watching like silent judges. The heirs assembled around a carved oak table, frost etching alpine scenes on the panes. The Baron's body lay in the cold storeroom, wrapped in linen. The study was sealed with Poirot's own wax. Poirot took the head of the table, hands folded. The ski tracks pirouette, yet vanish. Let us follow their choreography. He began with Ludwig. You skied at dusk, non, to clear your head. Ludwig's skier's tan had faded to grey. I was in the sauna till 9. Ask Victor. Frau Greta sipped Glühwein, lips curled. Otto disinherited him last month for the gambling. Marco Bellini leaned back, Italian charm intact. He promised me the Italian mills, said blood didn't matter. Poirot produced the forged codicil from a ski boot, found in the equipment room at dawn. The paper was heavy, the Baron's seal, a crude wax imitation. All to Marco Bellini, my true son. Signed, yesterday. Anna Weber's ledger trembled. The Baron burned the original. I typed this. Poirot's gaze fell on a bloodied crampon, aluminum, monogrammed GVR, dangling from the lift shaft in the boiler room, discovered by the cook. He lifted it with a napkin. Greta's size. Planted. Greta lunged. Someone frame me. Poirot led them to the boiler room. The lift shaft ascended to the study, its cables slick with fresh blood, still tacky. A strand of alpine rope clung to a pulley, frayed as if sawed. The hidden ascent, Poirot said. The icicle entered thus, but the ski tracks, why the madness? At dawn, Victor the valet confessed under Poirot's gentle prodding. I heard skis on the roof at 9:30, 2 sets, a woman's cry, then you'll never inherit. And the second voice, Poirot pressed. Deep, familiar, then a crunch. Poirot ascended to the study. The balcony door bore a gouge, new, made by a ski edge. He examined the desk, a thread of emerald wool caught in the drawer, matching Greta's sweater. In the lounge, he confronted her. You visited Otto at 9:20, non? To beg for Ludwig. Greta's mug rattled. I left at 9:25. He was alive. Poirot produced an emerald button from his pocket, found in the snow below the cliff. Yours, torn in flight. Marco's eyes widened. I saw skis on the roof rack at 9. Ludwig's missing. The ski tracks ended at the cliff's lip. Poirot brushed snow from a boulder, a faint smear of blood, and a ski print inside the loop. Someone had skied in circles, then launched backward, sweeping the trail with a pole. The phantom skier, Poirot murmured. He danced to confuse, then hid in the avalanche's shadow. He led them to the chalet's west wing. A hidden panel behind a moose head opened to a narrow ice tunnel, descending to the wine cave. The passage was glazed with frost, ski marks again, narrow, leading to a ventilation shaft sealed by snow. The true exit, Poirot said. The killer entered via the lift, stabbed, exited here, skied the loops to mislead, then returned through the tunnel. Ludwig blanched. The will. He signed it at noon, disinheriting me. Poirot's eyes gleamed. The codicil, the crampon, the ski tracks, all diversions, but the rope in the pulley speaks. As the party dispersed, Poirot lingered by the cliff. He lifted a frozen ski wax flake, a droplet of blood, crystallized. The phantom skier had danced, but the little grey cells followed the rhythm. Tomorrow, the Glühwein toast would reveal the next step. Chapter 3. The Poisoned Glühwein Legacy. The third morning at Chalet Edelweiss dawned under a sky of hammered pewter, the avalanche's aftermath a frozen labyrinth that turned the chalet into a glittering prison. Snow had drifted against the lower windows, transforming the supper room into a crystalline grotto. where icicles refracted the firelight into prisms of rose and gold. Hercule Poirot entered with the measured grace of a maestro, his moustaches waxed to alpine perfection, a silver tray of evidence balanced on a sideboard, the bloodied crampon, the forged codicil, the emerald button, the crystallized ski wax flake from the cliff's edge. The heirs, now a tribunal of suspicion, gathered around the carved pine table for what was meant to be the formal will-reading supper. A centerpiece of white edelweiss, frozen in a silver bowl, anchored the spread. Venison medallions in lingonberry reduction, spätzle glistening with butter, a black forest cake tiered like a miniature avalanche. The chapel bell, originally scheduled to toll for the Baron's funeral, now hung silent, its rope encased in the ice. Poirot stood at the table's head, hands clasped behind his back. We toast the legacy that will never be, but first, we toast the truth. He lifted a pewter flask from the sideboard, alpine engraved monogrammed LVR, Ludwig's gift to his father, found in the study's secret drawer. Glühwein for the toast, yet the spout bears a needle mark. Ludwig's hand trembled as he reached for it. Poirot stayed him. Smell. A faint marzipan bitterness wafted. Dr. Marwood, the village physician trapped by the storm, confirmed with a portable kit. Arsenic, enough to fell the table in minutes. Gasps rippled like wind across snow. Frau Greta's Glühwein mug clattered. Otto drank nothing after dinner. Poirot produced a second flask from his waistcoat, identical, uncorked, found in the lift shaft. This one is pure. The killer swapped them. Marco Bellini's Italian charm cracked. I warmed the gift flask myself at 7 in the kitchen, locked it in the study. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Yet the key was with Otto, who had access. Anna Weber's ledger trembled. I filed the codicil at 9:10. The flask was on the desk, untouched. Poirot turned to the Edelweiss. Beneath the frozen blooms, a love letter, forged. Otto's handwriting a clumsy mimicry, promising the Italian mills to Greta in exchange for silence about Ludwig's debts. Frau Greta, you drafted this at dusk yesterday. Otto refused to honor it. Greta's rings flashed. He was bankrupting the family. The icicle chandelier above the table swayed, its spikes glinting like frozen daggers. A link snapped. The fixture plunged. Anna Weber screamed, diving aside. Icicles exploded across the venison, butter knives skittering like skis. Poirot knelt, examining the chain, sharpened with a file, the tool found in Marco's ski wax kit. A warning, he said. The secretary knows too much. Anna paled. I found the file in my typewriter this morning, not mine. Poirot led them to the wine cave, its racks groaning under dusty bottles of Riesling and Pinot Noir. A secret ledger lay open on a barrel. Entries in Otto's hand dated last week, transferring the fortune to a mountain orphanage. A locket was tucked inside. Otto and Anna, arms entwined, dated 1918. Ludwig's face crumpled. She was his mistress, I knew. Anna's voice was frost. He ended it, chose duty. Poirot traced a frozen blood drop on the cave floor, Marco's boot size, leading to the chapel belfry. The belfry door was ajar, frost on the steps melted by recent passage. Inside, a strongbox lay open, the real will naming Victor Stahl as the Baron's true son, born in secrecy to a chambermaid. The motive, Poirot said. Otto discovered it yesterday, planned to announce it at supper. Greta stepped forward, emerald wool trembling. I saw Marco in the belfry at midnight, carrying a rope. Marco's accent cracked. He paid me to alter the skis, to plant the crampon, by her. He pointed at Greta. The supper room's edelweiss had thawed, petals bleeding white on the cloth. Poirot lifted the poison flask. The glühwein was to silence Ludwig and the truth. The chandelier to silence Anna. The belfry connects all. He turned to the group. Tonight, a reconstruction in the powder room. The mirrors will reflect the killer's hand. As they filed out, snow hissed against the panes like a dying breath. Poirot pocketed the locket. The poisoned glühwein had been raised, but the legacy's betrayal was still fermenting. The chalet's heart beat with a darker rhythm, and the next lie waited in the glass. Chapter 4. The phantom in the powder room. Night descended upon Chalet Edelweiss like a velvet avalanche, the storm's remnants swirling in ghostly eddies that clawed at the timbered walls. The powder room, a feminine sanctum of rose-scented mirrors and fur-draped chaise longues, had been transformed into a stage of revelation. Crystal sconces cast a honeyed glow, reflecting infinity in the gilded frames. A single ski pole, Ludwig's, blood-stained, propped against a vanity like a macabre sentinel. Hercule Poirot had orchestrated a reconstruction, the heirs arranged in a tense oval, their faces fractured into a kaleidoscope of suspicion. Poirot stood beneath a chandelier of frozen edelweiss, its petals glinting like daggers, his silhouette crisp as a blade. "The phantom skier glides tonight," he announced, voice silken as fondue. "The mirrors will not deceive." He placed the poisoned glühwein flask on the vanity. We reenact the final hour. Anna, the ledger. Marco, the rope. Greta, the codicil. The players moved like clockwork figures. Anna opened the ledger with trembling fingers. Marco coiled the alpine rope, his dark eyes wary. Greta clutched the forged codicil, her emerald wool pooling like spilled absinthe. Ludwig paced, skier's tan ghostly. Victor stood ramrod, loyalty etched in stone. Poirot dimmed the sconces. Shadows leapt like alpine spirits. 9:20. Otto alone. The killer ascends. A mirror reflected a flicker, a silhouette in white, vanishing behind a lynx fur coat that concealed the passage to the belfry. Poirot's cane tapped. "Now!" He darted, the party in pursuit. The fur parted. A draught carried the scent of edelweiss and blood. The passage spiraled like a corkscrew descending to the belfry, then ascending to the attic. Snow sifted through a cracked skylight, dusting the floor in pale constellations. A strongbox lay open. Otto's secret cache, now holding the real inheritance. A birth certificate naming Victor as the Baron's son, born 1895 to a Tyrolean maid. Victor knelt, face ashen. "He acknowledged me last week, promised everything." The attic door slammed. Ludwig stood there, a ski-wax knife glinting. "Father stole my life, gambling debts, disgrace. Victor gets it all." Poirot stepped forward, cane raised. "You forged the codicil, paid Anna to plant the flask." Anna sobbed. 100 francs to type the lie and the poison. Ludwig lunged. The knife slashed air. Poirot tripped a ski pole, stretched earlier across the beam. It snapped. A net of climbing rope ensnared Ludwig's wrist. The knife clattered. Klaus tackled him, pinning his arms. "The key," Poirot said, producing a frozen wax duplicate from the strongbox, edges melting. Molded in the belfry bell at 9:15, returned to the carpet as it thawed. Greta's voice broke. "You killed him for me." Ludwig spat. "For us. The will was void. Victor knew nothing." Poirot lifted the ski pole. "The phantom was no ghost. The reconstruction drew you out, Herr Ludwig, when you moved behind the fur." Back in the powder room, the mirrors reflected the truth. Ludwig's defiance crumbling, Anna's guilt, the other's shock. Poirot placed the wax key on the vanity. Tomorrow at dawn, the melt unmasks the final hand. The chandelier swayed, edelweiss petals chiming like a dirge. Poirot extinguished a sconce, its smoke curling like a departing soul. The phantom had been cornered, but the winter air's fall still echoed, waiting for the snow to surrender its secrets. Chapter 5. The Melt of the Mountain. Ere sunrise pierced the alpine vale with shafts of molten amber, the avalanche's fury reduced to a crystalline serenity that bathed Chalet Edelweiss in a glow of renewal. Icicles wept in rhythmic drips from the eaves, snow cascading from the roof in gentle avalanches that unveiled the chalet's rugged timbers. Hercule Poirot stood in the study, the Baron's murder scene now softened by light. The bloodstain on the blotter faded to a sepia whisper. The heirs, fractured, weary, gathered one final time, the air thick with the scent of thawing resin and irrevocable truth. Poirot held the frozen wax key aloft, its form collapsing into water in his palm. The melt dissolves deceptions, he began, voice resonant as the chapel bell tolling through the valley. The heir's fall was not of fortune, but of filial deceit. He arrayed the evidence on the desk: the wax key, the bloody crampon, the forged codicil, the real birth certificate, the ski wax knife, the climbing net. Ludwig von Richter clutched the desk's edge, his skiers tan sallow. Frau Greta stood apart, emerald wool discarded for sombre grey. Marco Bellini leaned against the window, Italian poise shattered. Anna Weber wrung her ledger. Victor Stahl remained erect, loyalty now vindicated. Frau Greta, Poirot said, you entered at 9:15 via the lift shaft. The icicle fell from your crampons as you climbed. You argued. Otto showed you the orphanage ledger, exposing your embezzlement of the household funds. Greta's rings, now absent, left pale bands on her fingers. He discovered the transfers, threatened exposure. Poirot produced the ledger from the belfry strongbox. You forged the codicil to redirect the fortune to Ludwig's debts. Otto refused. He turned to the ski tracks. You looped outside in Marco's skis, stolen from the rack. The cliff was your theatre. You skied the figure eights, then launched backward, sweeping with the pole. Marco's voice cracked. She paid me to forge the Italian seal, to plant the crampon. Poirot lifted the poisoned glühwein flask. You laced it for Ludwig, to silence him before he learned the truth. The chandelier, sharpened by you to warn Anna. Anna nodded. She threatened my position. I typed the lie. Victor stepped forward. I saw her on the roof at 9, carrying the skis. Poirot opened the real birth certificate. Otto planned to reveal Victor at supper. You stabbed him at 9:32, molded the key in wax at the belfry earlier, locked the door, exited via the tunnel. Greta sank to a chair, face crumpling. The empire, crumbling. He'd have left us penniless. Ludwig released the desk. Mother, you killed him for my debts. He turned to the window. The will was fair. Victor deserves it. Poirot's gaze was unyielding. The codicil, the crampon, the ski tracks, all your diversions. The reconstruction drew Ludwig out, but the wax key betrayed you. The chalet's doors creaked open. Rescuers trudged through the melt, summoned by a flare from the attic. Greta was cuffed, her statuesque frame diminishing. Marco, Anna, and Ludwig were led away for complicity. The study window gleamed, frost fully dissolved, revealing the Alps' vast liberty. Poirot lifted the ski pole, its crimson stain now brown. The air falls first. You wrote it, to frame ambition, but the truth melts. Outside, a rescue sled waited, bells muted. Victor embraced Poirot. The orphanage will bear his name. Poirot boarded, muff warm in his lap. Chalet Edelweiss receded, its windows clear, the storm's betrayal thawed with the snow. The mountain stretched eternal, the chalet restored to peace. The winter airs fall avenged in crystalline justice,